Hello, everyone. Listen and speak together.
Welcome to the Mrs. English Interactive Podcast.
No, Maria, you have to hear this. So, I'm meeting my friend Sarah for coffee, right? I'm running 5 minutes late because I'm me. And I text her, "Don't worry, I'm already on the taxi. See you soon."
Oh, Hugo, please tell me you weren't actually sitting on the roof of a yellow cab like an action movie hero.
Exactly. That's exactly what she said. She replied with a laughing emoji and asked if I was holding onto the roof rack for dear life. I was so confused. I thought, I'm in a vehicle. I'm traveling. Why is on so wrong here?
It's the classic trap, Hugo. You've just described the nightmare of every stuck intermediate learner. You know the words, you know the destination, but the preposition, that tiny two-letter word, completely changes the mental picture for a native speaker.
It's frustrating, right? You feel like you've mastered the hard stuff, the big vocabulary, the crazy verb tenses, and then a little word like in or on makes you sound like you're starring in a circus act.
Precisely. Technically speaking, prepositions are the linguistic mortar that binds the bricks of our nouns, verbs, and adjectives into a meaningful structure. Without that mortar, the whole sentence just falls apart into a pile of loose concepts. It leads to what we call barrenness and confusion in communication.
Whoa, Maria. Linguistics alert. You're talking about that no-linguist zone again. For everyone listening at home, when Maria says linguistic mortar, she just means these are word best friends. They're the little words that help the big words stick together so you don't sound like a robot.
Fair enough, Hugo. My structure specialist brain sometimes gets carried away. But we have to look at the science here. Why is it that we are on a bus, on a train, and on a plane, but the moment we step into a car or a taxi, the rule flips to in?
It feels like English is just trolling us at this point. Like, hey, let's make a rule and then break it immediately just to see them suffer.
It feels that way, but there is a deep historical logic at play. We have to look at the origin of the error to understand the solution. Most of our transportation language is actually haunted by what I like to call the maritime ghost.
A ghost? Now we're talking. Is this like a pirate ship situation?
Essentially, yes. Think about it. Long before we had airplanes or buses, the primary way to move large groups of people was by ship. A ship has a deck, a wide, flat surface. When you stepped onto that surface, you were on board.
Okay, I get that. You're on the deck because you're standing on a floor.
Exactly. And as technology evolved, we simply cloned that maritime language onto new forms of mass transit. When the first trains arrived, they were seen as land ships. You didn't just enter them, you boarded them. Therefore, you were on board the train. The same happened with aviation. We have captains, crews, and we are on the plane because we are stepping onto a platform.
Wait, but what about the bus? A bus doesn't feel like a pirate ship, Maria. It feels like, a big box with wheels and uncomfortable seats.
True, but look at the etymology. The word bus is actually a clipping, or a shortening, of the Latin word omnibus, which means for all.
Clipping? Translation. It's just a nickname. We just chopped the word in half because omnibus is too much work to say while you're running to catch one.
Correct. But back in the 1800s, those first omnibuses were often horse-drawn carts that were open-topped. Passengers would literally step up onto an open platform. Because it was an open surface, they were on the bus. By the time we added roofs and engines, the preposition was already glued to the word. We changed the vehicle, but we forgot to change the grammar.
That is wild. So we're basically using 200-year-old pirate logic to talk about our morning commute? No wonder Sarah thought I was on the roof of the taxi.
Exactly. And this is why it's so hard for intermediate learners. You're looking at a modern, enclosed car and thinking, I'm inside a container, so I should be fine. And you're right, you are in a container. But with a bus, your brain has to fight 200 years of history.
Okay, but here's the thing, Maria. Don't overthink it. Most of our students don't have time to do a history degree before they go to the airport. We need a hack, a real-world shortcut.
And what is your communication coach shortcut, Hugo?
It's the Boardable Rule. It's super simple. If the vehicle is big enough that you can stand up and walk to your seat, you are on it.
Because you are treated as being on a platform or a deck.
Exactly. If you can walk 2 steps to find your chair, like on a bus, a train, or a Boeing 747, you're on. But if you have to bend down, duck your head, and shuffle into your seat immediately, like in a car, a taxi, or a tiny rowboat, then you are in.
That's a very functional heuristic, Hugo. Technically, it's about the scale and physical dimensions of the transport. If the vehicle acts as a container, we use in. If it acts as a platform, we use on.
Boom. Container versus platform. I love it. But Maria, I've got a tricky one for you. What about a bicycle? You can't walk around on a bike. You're definitely not inside it. But we say on a bike.
Ah, that follows the surface rule. You are sitting upon the seat, exposed to the air. You aren't enclosed, so you are on the surface.
See? Even when you try to make it about platforms, English finds a way to be weird. It's like the language is a living, breathing glitch.
It certainly is. But understanding that in equals enclosed container and on equals walkable platform will save our listeners from so much grammar anxiety.
Man, my brain is already doing the main character zoomies just thinking about all these rules. I think I need a breather before we dive into the meat of the lesson.
I agree. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to look at the exceptions, like why you're in a helicopter but on a plane.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back on Mrs. English Interactive. And we are back. If you're just joining us, Maria was just blowing my mind with the fact that my morning bus ride is actually a 200-year-old nautical adventure. I'm currently trying to imagine my bus driver wearing a pirate hat, but anyway, Maria, we need to get into the meat of this.
I think a pirate hat might actually improve the morning commute, Hugo, but you're right. Now that we understand the maritime ghost, we need to look at the structural physics of these prepositions. Technically speaking, it's all about the scale and physical dimensions of the vehicle.
Scale and dimensions? Maria, remember the no linguist zone. For everyone at home, she just means the size and shape rule. It's about how big the thing is and what you do with your body to get inside it.
Precisely. If we look at the core of the rule, we use in for vehicles that act as an enclosed container. This is why you are in a car, in a taxi, or even in a small van. You are entering a three-dimensional box that surrounds you completely.
Right. And because you're in a box, you have to sit down immediately. You can't stand up in a Toyota Corolla, unless you're a very small toddler maybe. But for adults, the moment you step in, your butt hits the seat. That's the posture rule. If you're sitting immediately, you're in.
Exactly. But the moment the vehicle becomes a platform or a deck, we switch to on. This is the boardable rule. If the vehicle is large enough that you can stand up and walk around while it's in motion, like a train, a plane, or a cruise ship, you are on board, which we shorten to just on.
See? This is why English is so confusing. I'm physically inside a plane. There's a roof, there are walls, I'm 30,000 feet in the air. But if I tell my mom I'm in the plane, I sound like a tourist.
You do. Unless, and this is a LinkedIn versus TikTok distinction, you are specifically talking about the physical space to avoid the rain. If you said, it's pouring outside, so I'm sitting in the bus until it stops, that's technically acceptable because you're emphasizing the shelter. But for travel, it's always on.
Okay, but let's talk about the tricky ones. What about helicopters? They fly. They're in the air like planes. But I've heard people say in a helicopter.
That's because a helicopter is a small, cramped space where you must sit immediately upon entry. It's more like a flying car than a flying ship. Therefore, because of its scale and the sitting posture, we say in a helicopter.
Man, my brain is going hard 404 right now. Let me see if I've got this. Big thing you can walk on? On. Small thing you're stuck in? In.
You've got it. But there's another category, exposed transit. Think about motorcycles, bicycles, or even those electric scooters we see everywhere in 2026. You aren't enclosed at all. You are sitting upon a surface.
Right, the surface rule. You're on a bike because you're literally sitting on top of it. You've got one leg on each side, which Maria probably calls straddling, right?
I do, Hugo. It's a very specific prepositional phrase.
Translation. Word best friends. On and bike are best friends. They always hang out together.
They certainly do. And this leads us to the verbs we use to enter these vehicles. For in vehicles, we get in and get out of. For on vehicles, we get on and get off.
Oh, the get verbs. Students hate these. They're like helper words that do all the heavy lifting. So, I get in my car, but I get on the train. If I say I'm getting off the car, everyone thinks I was standing on the roof again.
Correct. And it's important to remember that these aren't just random choices. They are collocations, which, as Hugo says, are just words that like to hang out together. If you mix them up, you don't just sound wrong, you create a vibe shift in the conversation that confuses native speakers.
A vibe shift. Exactly. You want to sound flowing and natural. If you're at a party and you say, I arrived to here in the bus, you've just committed 2 grammar glitches in one sentence.
Let's break those down. First, we never arrive to a place. We arrive at a specific point or arrive in a large area like a city.
And second, you didn't come in the bus. You came on the bus. Or even better, if you're just talking about the method, you can say by bus.
Ah, the by rule. We use by for the general environment or method of travel. You travel by air, by sea, or by rail. Notice there is no the or a when we use by.
Oh, that's a huge hack. If you don't want to worry about in or on, just use by. I got here by car. I got here by train. It's the get out of jail free card of English transport.
Only if you're talking about the method, Hugo. If you're physically sitting on the train and someone calls you to ask where you are, you can't say, I am by train. You have to say, I'm on the train.
Okay, you caught me. No shortcuts in Maria's classroom.
It's not about being strict. It's about conversational confidence. I want our students to feel like they are the main character of their own English story. When you use the right preposition, you have those main character zoomies, that burst of confidence because you know you sound exactly like a native.
I love that. But hey, Maria, let's be real for a second. Native speakers are lazy. We make glitches all the time. I hear people say, I'm good in maths, instead of good at maths constantly.
It's true. Native speakers often prioritize speed over precision. They might say less people when they should say fewer people, or he did good instead of he did well.
Exactly. So to our stuck intermediate friends, don't sweat the small stuff too much. If a native speaker can say, I could have gone instead of I could have gone, you are allowed to make a mistake with a bus preposition.
While that's true, understanding the container versus platform logic gives you a structural safety net. It's the difference between guessing and knowing.
Man, all this structural safety is making me hungry. I think it's time for another break before we hit the real-world test.
Good idea. Grab a snack, Hugo. When we come back, we're going to test these rules with some 2026 technology, autonomous pods, electric unicycles, and more.
Oh, it's about to get weird. Stick around. And we're back for the final stretch. You haven't left us. You're still on the Mrs. English interactive train, and I promise we're reaching the station soon. How's the brain feeling, Maria? Still in structure mode?
Always, Hugo. Although, I must admit, your Boardable Rule has been running like a background app in my mind during the break. It's a very elegant way to handle what is technically a very complex set of prepositional phrases.
Whoa! Linguistics alert. For everyone at home, when Maria says prepositional phrase, she just means those word best friends we talked about earlier. It's just a group of words that start with our stars of the show. In, on, or at.
Precisely. Now, for this final segment, I want to challenge your communication coach intuition. It is one thing to use these rules for a 19th century bus, but what about the technology our students are using today, in 2026?
Oh, I'm ready. The real world is my playground, Maria. Let's do this.
Okay, scenario 1. You're in downtown San Francisco, and you call one of those new autonomous pods, the small, 2-person ones with no driver. You open the door, you sit down, and you text your friend. Are you in the pod or on the pod?
Okay, let's apply the posture test. Can I stand up and walk to my seat? No, these pods are tiny. I have to duck my head and shuffle in. It's an enclosed container, so I'm definitely in the pod.
Correct. Now, what if that pod is part of a shared platform system, like the new urban shuttles where 8 people stand and hold onto rails?
Then it flips. Because it's a platform, I'm walking onto a floor. I'm on the shuttle. Even if it's the exact same engine, The physical experience of standing and walking makes it an on situation.
Very good. You're starting to see the Google Maps zoom levels I love to talk about. Remember, at is the pin on the map, the specific location like at the charging station. On is the street or the platform, the surface. And in is the container, the city or the car that surrounds you.
That is such a spark moment for me, Maria. Using the at is the pin analogy is a total glow drop from my understanding. It makes the whole thing feel less like a hard 404 error in my head.
I'm glad my fancy analogies are helping. But let's look at a social register challenge. You're late for a meeting with a high-level executive. You're currently traveling. Do you say, I'm on my way in a car, or I'm on my way by car?
Ooh, that's the LinkedIn versus TikTok rule, right? If I want to sound professional and focus on the method, I'd say I'm coming by car. It's clean, it's direct, and I don't have to worry about articles like the or ah.
Excellent. Technically speaking, using by indicates the environment or the medium of transport. But if that executive calls you while you are physically sitting in traffic, you'd say, I'm currently in a taxi, to emphasize your location within the container.
Right. Because if I said I'm on a taxi, she'd think I was having a main character Zoomies moment on the roof again.
Exactly. We want to avoid any glitches in your professional reputation, Hugo. Now, let's talk about the most basic form of transport, walking. I've heard you say by foot and on foot. Which one is the Maria-approved version?
Trick question. They're both right, but they feel different. By foot is the method, like by car. But on foot is the physical reality. You are standing on your feet. Most natives use on foot when they want to sound a bit more descriptive.
Correct. It is an irregularity, but a very common one.
You know what else is common? Natives getting this stuff wrong. I was reading a forum the other day where a guy said he was in the bus because it was raining.
And that is the functional flexibility of English. Sometimes we prioritize the feeling of being enclosed over the nautical logic of the platform. As an intermediate learner, you have to be okay with that messiness.
That's the secret rule, guys. Connection beats perfection every single time. If you say in the bus instead of on the bus, no one is going to call the grammar police. They'll just know you're dry and out of the rain.
I agree. We often tell our students, don't let the fear of a glitch stop your flow. The CDT report for 2026 actually shows that the most successful learners are the ones who take the most communicative risks.
Did you hear that? Take more risks. Use your main character Zoomies and just start talking. Even if you mess up a preposition, you're still moving forward.
Well said, Hugo. I think we've covered the prepositional architecture of transportation quite thoroughly today, from the maritime ghosts of the 1800s to the autonomous pods of today.
I'm officially exhausted. My brain needs a glow drop of its own. Maybe a nap? In a hammock? Or am I on a hammock?
Since it surrounds you like a container, you're in the hammock, Hugo. Go rest.
I'm on it. But before I go, we need to give everyone the text message summary so they can save this lesson to their phones.
Of course. Here's your TLDR for today's deep dive.
The transport hack. Use on if you can walk to your seat. Use in if you have to sit down immediately. Use on for anything with a surface but no roof. Done.
Perfect. Thank you all for joining us for this deep dive into the world of English prepositions. We hope this helps you move from grammar anxiety to conversational confidence.
You guys are amazing. If this helped you find your flow, do us a favor. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments, what's the weirdest thing you've ever traveled on or in?
We can't wait to read your stories. Until next time, keep practicing, keep curious.
And we will see you next time on the Mrs. English Interactive Podcast. Bye, everyone.